Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes for Kai. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. We look at another one from Bad Idea today. This is The Hab. And it's one of only few reviews I'm going to get through this week, just because there's really not that much dropped. DUK did not get a lot of stuff from smaller press ones, or they didn't manage Bad Ideas, so that's good. And I was looking forward to this one. I'm going to probably pay more attention to comic books which involve very, very rich tech bros getting what's coming to them, more than I will some other random comic books. However, this very much falls into that gap of books which feel like they're trying to scratch that itch, but I don't think necessarily do kind of not necessarily what I want them to do, but don't do much in the way of actually examining the problem. Other far more talented and experienced YouTube content creators and other such TikTokers have put out far better content on this kind of thing than I have. But I'm going to take a shot at this one because I feel like it's worth talking about. So you've got Desart and Lapham on this one as the two primary creators, plus some other people helping out here and there. And it is the story of extra ridiculously rich tech bro with the fall of civilization going on. He's built this fantastic habitat for his family and some of his workers. And then things start going wrong. And it feels a little bit vaguely The Thing, but not entirely that. It's more like very, very small microorganisms infecting people. And I've got to say, before I get to some critique of it, the horror beats are pretty well done. Like, really nice timed moments. They build up tension really effectively. There's a nice rise and fall to it where we get some ridiculous over-the-top violence and then some nice tension building up. There's some pretty good character writing. We get, like, some little details on who these people are beyond the obvious kind of stuff. We get some interplays of relationships which feel like they're going to be nice to build up on. But for the most part, it seems to be doing the whole bad things happening to rich people, but doesn't really examine that. And other TV shows and movies have tried to do something similar and kind of fallen in the same hurdle. Simply because there seems to be, in popular culture at the moment, a general desire to see the ultra-wealthy get their comeuppance. I could name you half a dozen movies and TV shows I've watched over the past few years which have done this exact same thing, but hardly any that have got under the skin of why people feel this way, what they've done which is actually amoral, and the terrible trail of bodies that are left behind them on their struggle to get to the top of this economic pile. This is one such comic book because, yes, terrible things happen to them as a result of digging into what I imagine is some very, very old water that had been frozen for a very long time, or maybe melting because of climate change, although, hell, even that would have been a slightly more of a take on, like, yeah, the problems caused by the ultra-wealthy, climate change is one of them. But no, it does just feel like it's because these individual peoples have just chosen to drill in this particular place and unleash something terrible. But more than it being about the terrible people and the things they've done leading to the terrible thing happening to them now, it almost reads like, it's just unlucky that they built it here. There's no real connection between the terrible things people have to do to make this much money, the terrible decisions they need to make, how psychopath, and I don't mean that in like a grandiose kind of way, I mean like psychopathy, the inability to empathize with people. Like, the decisions you make in that kind of frame of mind lead to that much money, yeah, but also they are terrible. They do lasting harm, generational harm, and this just feels like he's going through some bad stuff. And yeah, he's not a nice person, our tech bro billionaire here, and he's, annoyed, and he definitely falls into traps saying, oh yeah, I deserve this, I have earned this, when he clearly hasn't. And yes, he has some problems with his family not liking him and other relationships kind of falling apart, but all of the stuff, bad stuff seems to be happening more on the fact that he's just, kind of not a nice guy. And a bit of bad luck. Like, maybe if he'd built this habitat here as the world is falling apart and nuclear bombs are going off, maybe if he'd have gone somewhere else to do it, cool. He had the money. He has this much money to spend building this thing. If he picked somewhere where there wasn't a parasitic microscopic organism which is causing delusions and violent behavior, then everything would be okay, and he'd be fine because he had that much money to make himself safe from the problems. And that is unfortunately where I butt up against it. It is a good horror story. It does have some nice beats to it. It looks great. Lapham is fantastic. Scanning Desart is a great writer. The colouring is really good. And I do feel like the pacing of it is great. We even have some, like, other trauma coming into it, where, yeah, again, there's kind of like a sense that we could be sympathetic towards some people involved, even though there is almost certainly the fact that terrible things that they've done and they've got away with because of their money, it feels like we're more being framed like, oh yeah, but it's really bad that they feel guilty about it. And instead of you know, people who've died because of those things. All in all, this could have been a great horror story with a different core setup, or with the same core setup, it could have gone a different way and actually done more with the core idea. But yeah, unfortunately, I just bounced off it a little bit too much for me. It's a shame. Anyway, that's it for me for now. Until I see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.